180 or 90 to 240 or 50 range. And if you start doing 3-car garage, bigger lots, you know, it doesn't work. It's going to get a lot more, you know, cost involved there. Plus, the reason the density is, you know, on the specials, if we go too many single family, it wouldn't be feasible right now because of the cost of the specials. You know, instead of being like 200 to 250 specials per lot, if we did, like Ken said, all single family could go up to 350 a lot. And we already have interest rates so high on the single family that, you know, if you get, you know, with 300,000 is getting, right now it's a little struggle to sell because the interest rates the way they're.
So what's the price range?
Okay, so what price range do you have?
The price range of the single family would be the 190 to the 250. There might be, you know, if there was a custom home, maybe a 300, you know, depending on what they want to add, you know, and the down homes would be valued, you know, close to 400,000. But like if they were split up, they'd be 200,000 a piece, which, you know, is a very cost effective, you know, if somebody wanted to buy half one or anything. So.
Oh, these townhomes, they're gonna be 1 story? Or you gotta throw some 2 stories in there?
We plan to do 1 story, right?
I would assume so, yes.
Plan to do that.
So what we've seen on, as far as those go, generally they will be 1 story, but like cul-de-sac lots and some of those things, if you get into awkward sizes, we've done 2 stories on cul-de-sac lots to get a house where you get a good sized home. So you might see a 2-story on a cul-de-sac where it may be not as deep. So you gotta go a little wider or something.
Like if you get into a lot that just won't fit, you know, can't, a full one, you know, it could be a 2-story, I guess.
Thank you.
And again, we're kind of looking for feedback here as far as we've got it drawn at 76%. We kind of want some feedback from you as far as what your expectations would be for being acceptable. Is that number the right number? We want to make sure to kind of get that kind of covered, and then also the idea of putting the single family up there. We think that's the best thing to do as far as just being, as far as from a neighbor perspective. One thing that will end up changing probably, I didn't take the time to draw this, is at the corner there, generally we're required to provide a water clip for the widening, future widening of that road. So that'll be more like a 70-foot right of way, 75-foot right of way at the very southeast corner. So that's kind of why I didn't mess around with those lots too much, is we'll end up modifying that corner a little bit.
That's a good, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask about that. You know, that the intersection just north of here at what is it, Pawnee, or not Pawnee, yeah, 23rd and 183rd is a mess sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Putting 200 lots here, and maybe that's 500 cars a day or so. What's the, I mean, who pays for the street infrastructures to get to this, that would be required? I mean, how does that work? Or?
So 23rd Pawnee, that's actually all of it is in the county. So all the 4-way stop over there, that's all county related. As the city grows, we tend to either we annex a portion of the road, or the county reaches out to us and says, you are going to annex a portion of the road, and it gets foisted upon us. So over time we end up owning the roads, but we don't really want to own the roads until we get the revenue from the properties to justify the maintenance of ownership.
We don't want to overbuild very, very expensive streets. The demand has to come first, unfortunately.
And we do at the present time have 3 street projects that are part of the Wampa, Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization process of funding. So you got to have them in the queue to finally have them at least get picked. So we got 3 mile-long sections. One of them is actually the extension of Crown Drive down to, the 23rd Street. The other one is from, I think, 199 on 23rd to 215th Street. And then the last one is 183rd Street from Kellogg to Maple.
And we've got a roundabout program
This
too.
is part of that.
And the Pawnee and 183rd one is in the roundabout
So,
program. And our
Wichita
CIP.
and the surrounding communities divvy up around $30 million a year for street improvements, and we haven't had any representation in that for long enough that they didn't even realize we're in the county anymore.
Yeah. One thing I'll add too, as far as this conversation goes, the one thing that we would be able to do too is like at that entrance on 183rd, we could prepare a turn lane petition, so if the traffic got to the point where there was a need to incorporate turn lanes to facilitate traffic getting in and out, that's something we can always have a turn lane petition that may not be initiated initially, but if the traffic counts get to the point where there's concern, you could activate that petition to get the turn lanes put into the addition. That's a pretty common practice that can be done to help alleviate congestion, at least right here at the project itself.
You know, I guess the big bear in the room is the ratio. Trails in, we did that on a 60/40. That was kind of, at least when we kind of walked into it, being the new 2 or 3 years. And I think the planning commission there was a number, that became a number. Is there any way of making something like that work at a 60/40? And I'll add to that just quickly, when I was in Breckenridge this last weekend, they have a duplex set up where they actually, the only tie between the duplexes is the water heaters and the furnaces. So it looks like almost a little dollhouse in between $1.9 million duplexes. But it creates the perception. It's not really an illusion, but they're on duplex lots, but it creates the perception that they're singular units, and but they're tied together. That's just, I mean, for discussion. I thought it was kind of a unique, because when you walk the neighborhood, you think they're just very close together, single-family homes.
And honestly, the single family at the north end, that's kind of that concept going on there
Right.
already.
But on the larger duplex lots, they were doing the same thing. Is my point.
Interesting. Yeah, we hadn't had that discussion. I mean, that's something we could certainly talk about. So the one thing is you're saying the 76, you'd like to see that number be a little bit lower, would be one thing that we need to be thinking about.
Well, I mean, that's kind of where, Trails in, those numbers ended up, 60% single family and 40% duplexes, right? That's where that was. Well, I'm just saying, just in terms of moving it. I mean, the other, I'll go ahead and say it, the other, thought I think that I've heard is even having less duplexes, so.
Or none.
None at all, so.
So you want a temperature, so I'll just tell you my perspective. When we were here a year ago, and Maple Tree came to us, they wanted 24 duplexes and 9 twin homes. I wasn't in support of that. I was in support of the villas at PRC because the data supported it, 55 plus. That was something that we needed in our community, and we had several. We had the data to support that. I am not in favor of this at all, because currently we have 221 that are still not, that are platted, that are still not even built in our city limits yet. So I know that when that happens, there's going to be some more freak out, and all of that occurred, before. And I just think, personally, in the long game, single-family homes are what our community wants. And part of the previous topic of the strategic plan is to keep these kinds of projects on the periphery and not right in the central part of the community. That's my That's my perspective and what I'm hearing from our community is there's just a lot of duplexes. I know that we need revenue, but even, I'm gonna read this, this was on our city page. Our zoning reforms expand housing options, and we updated our R1 zoning subdivisions to meet the moment, smaller homes on smaller lots. And to her point, people who want to downsize into a single family home and not a duplex necessarily. So,
When you get down to that.
I'm not in favor of this project.
And I'll just say that I'll second that. Like, I'm in favor of the project if we can do, I mean, there was a reason that we went with the R1 zoning so that we can make the smaller lots for single family homes. If you read what our citizens are writing every single day, like, they're angry about them, and I know that we need the density, and I thought that's why we did a couple things. One, make the R1 plats. Secondly, we just had a big conversation about where those that overlay is, where we would want that density to come from. And so I think that if we're gonna approve that density in those areas, that's where we need to do it, not in the city center. And so I would just ask, you know, what is the viability of making those R1 single family homes here? I think that if we could do that and then have some type of amenity and some sidewalks to make it just a really nice area, I think that would be a really awesome. That would be what I would want to see here.
So as a developer, a builder, so where you went over in Bel Air, where you looked at the duplexes and everything. Okay, so, you know, Joe Schneider is a big, he's built homes in this area for 30 years, you know, very, very exclusive homes. Okay, when he looked at my duplexes versus he looked at a lot of other, you know, townhomes, he picked mine because he said it was the best that built, the best everything he'd seen, okay? So, and number two, so over there where those duplexes are, the duplex lots, townhome lots were developed at the same time as the house lots across, the housing development across the road. So, all the duplex lots, all the townhomes, I mean, I think about half my people are coming from out of state, even moving here. They're treating it as their own home, like, and they love the fact of the townhome versus a single family. You know, because everything's taken care of. You know, the yard, all the different things, but the problem is, so across the road with a single family it's going really slow. Like it started at the same time. The duplexes are pretty much, all the lots are sold. I can't buy anymore. But across the road, the single family, they're gonna be still building stuff for another 5 years right now, because that's not what the people are wanting.
But what are those costs? What's the single family homes cost compared to what you're
From
they're getting?
200,000 on up to 400.
How many 200,000 are they really building?
They've only built about probably 12 homes in there out of 30. Yeah, no, there's probably 3 or 4 at the low end, and then people do custom homes, and I'm just saying, it's the single family is, if you get above a threshold right now with interest rates, it's a tough go. And plus, when you do single family, like if you're saying to change the density, when those specials go from $225 up to $300 some dollars a month in specials on single family versus in townhome, it don't feasibly work for a developer to do that, because then the specials get too high. So, you know, that's where, you know, the density gets too low, it just won't work. It wouldn't
Yeah.
feasibly work.
And I'll just add, I know the one challenge that we face is you have a lot of folks saying, we don't want duplexes in this town, we want single family, but they're not buying them. And what we're seeing is there's a lot of people say, this is what we need, but when it comes to actually what you see, people filling up, and it's a weird time for me. I thought the duplex thing was gonna run out of steam 10 years ago, honestly, I really did. But it's just, they build them and people still go into them, people still want them because of affordability. And it's a difficult line to walk as far as finding that out. And I mean, I'm with you, I mean, I understand it.
Affordability makes me laugh because they're renting for $1,800 a month, some of them out here to me. So, I mean, affordability is a relative term.
And that's
I
bad.
mean, it's just a relative term, so.
And $1,800 is not affordable.
Well,
Ken, I got a question about the specials, and I don't know if you've actually done some calculations, but with these smaller, single-family lots, if that was what you had on this whole development, the specials per lot would be lower than if you had this mix here, because you're gonna have more lots to spread those specials on than if you had the two-family project.
That's what I was wondering, if you have any, say you did single family on the entire thing, do you have any idea how many lots that would be? I know that's.
I haven't ran through that, I haven't ran through that process, and when John's saying the 200, that's like $200 a unit versus $200 a house. So the duplex lots, they're bigger lots, they actually do have higher specials, but you're splitting it between 2 units, so you're splitting the cost. And so I just wanted that for a point of clarity. But yeah, the thing about doing even those smaller lots, those are small enough that you're getting close to the same density as the duplexes. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. It is closer. We haven't ran through those numbers to see it. The other question is, the one advantage, and on these single family, were you guys proposing to have them be part of your HOA maintenance, or were they gonna be self-maintained?
No, if we lease them, they would be HOA managed.
But, so
You
if
know,
they
but if
lease
we
them, if
sell
they
them,
do,
you know,
that
but even then, we probably would still have them. We actually would, because it would be just like a patio home.
and
You
so
know, it would be taken
where I'm
care of.
going at with this is we like the idea of doing the smaller single family, and if we need to do a higher percentage, I think these guys would be open to that discussion. But the idea of the entire addition being made up with that, it's kind of a new concept, and you know, we were talking about being risk averse earlier. Making sure that we have a product and we have a mix of products, so if somebody wants this, they can have that. If they're looking for this, they can have that, just for different levels of product on the site. So I think that's the one thing we're wanting to do, is have a little bit of diversity of what we do. And that even goes to the discussion about the 3-car garages. By having those, you're providing a different product for people to have interest, so you're providing some diversity through the addition. So that's kind of some of the stuff we're looking at on it.
Ken, do you feel like there's a no-go point for a percentage, like if you guys drop below a certain percentage of duplexes, you just gonna have to walk away from the project?
John, I'd have to leave that to you guys. I don't know if we'd come up with that. I will say that if it was 100% single family, it's a no-go, they would just walk away. But
Even if it was the same number of doors?
Probably 70% townhome, 30% single. Plus, we're also, you know, the development right to the north is Liberty Homes. And they build a lot, from what I've seen, they build a lot of smaller, cheaper homes. You know, where we wouldn't want that many single family at the same time they're gonna be phasing and building all those. That's gonna be a lot of single family right there.
Duplexes right now for me are just a hard sell. I'm sorry, I don't mean any disrespect, but I live in this community, and I'm gonna live here, you know, and I'm just thinking of the long term.
And maybe there's a difference of how they're taking care of them. You know, if you have an HOA and you make sure everything's clean, you make sure everything is built nice, everything has stone on the front, whether it's the houses or the townhomes, you know. It really, there's a difference there. Now, if it was gonna be a bunch of cheap duplexes with no brick, nothing, no that, you know, that'd be different.
Quick comment, I guess, to the group here is, you know, I'm not a fan of duplexes either. I prefer to Connie have the nice, nice big houses, but we started this meeting off with a presentation from the representative for the RSCK, and what she was hitting on the whole time was about, not affordable housing, but middle housing, which I think that's basically what this is proposing is middle housing, and if not this, then what do we do to promote that middle housing?
But
Or do we
wouldn't,
not want middle, or is that?
wouldn't the middle housing though that we could have in our community now be the smaller single-family homes? Because we are having, I mean, like I said, there are 221 duplexes or buildings that still are not erected that are already platted. So I'm just thinking about when they finally are, and then we add 191 more on
Yeah.
top of the 221 that still aren't built.
I think you have to look at,
But why are
The ones
they
that aren't built,
not
how
built
fast-
yet? I mean,
how fast are they
They're
being
just
occupied?
They're just new, they've been in process since 2022, I think.
I'll be a
But
little bit
because of
frank,
phases they're on?
I think it's, the engineering is moving a little slow, no offense to the industry again, but some of those projects are being held up because we're not getting to the point where they're shovel ready.
and it could be if they gotta get the 85%, you know, stuff like that done before they start the next phase.
So letter
That
credit's
could-
probably a challenge too.
I mean, it could be a
They haven't
challenge.
started any phase though.
What?
Right.
You know what the occupancy is,
70s.
Micah, off the top of your head?
Of all of them?
The ones that are done, 87%?
87% are finished.
No, the ones that are built, in terms of the ones that are built. How many are occupied, have a certificate of
Oh,
occupancy?
occupied.
Yes.
Of all the building permits for
Yeah.
duplexes that have been pulled, we're about 87%.
And that's,
Very high number.
and that's based on
It's not
completion, not
started.
necessarily renters, correct?
That's correct. So it's only gonna be if an ABCD issued a certificate of occupancy. That doesn't mean occupancy in terms of somebody actually needs.
In 2030, yeah.
And there's a lot of people also that, you know, they'll live in one side, buy the duplex. You know, it's an option. A lot of times, either, you know, I'll manage the other side, but they get that grant money to manage the fee to help make their payments. So you're never gonna get that out of a single family home. And that makes it very, like, I'm able to still, right now, I can sell as many townhomes as you know, the market is there. Single family is not like that right now. It's hit or miss, it's tougher, especially the higher price you build.
And I'll just say that, you know, even the 70, if you have a different number in mind that as a group you kind of, and we're not obligating you tonight, no binding action and all that, right? So tonight's just a discussion. But if there's a number you have in mind, we can always sit there and adjust our layout and see if we can make it work. So if there is a different number you have in mind, you know, 70 is the number he said that he would prefer not to go below. But if you have a number you want us to look at, that's the whole purpose tonight, is to get that gauge of what you would feel comfortable with. And I know I've heard 0, and that Julie noted. But it is one of those things, for the project to be viable, that's not gonna work. And so it's one of those things, if there's any kind of guidance you can give us as far as what might work. And again, this all has to, you have to see our layout and hear this again in the future. And I know John and those guys, if you didn't get a chance to go see his product before, he'd certainly, if you want that opportunity, that could be provided again too, so. He is wanting to put out a quality product, like I said, they're looking at the three-car garages in some instances, just to provide a little bit more diversity to the neighborhood, so. So just any guidance you can give us on it is helpful.
In terms of the analysis y'all have done, I mean, what kind of concerns do you have in terms of the competition and what's being built? And I mean, not just within Goddard, but the Goddard School District has over 50 developments in process. And I mean, we've never taken time ran and try to determine what percentage of that are single-family homes and duplexes. But I mean, just I guess asking for kind of your take of the overall market and maybe the western side of Wichita. I mean, you're the one taking the risk in terms of the bill. We obviously have some confidence in what's going on.
Well, yeah, because, you know, And on the townhomes, you know, you can keep them rent them out as an investor, but you still have two options of outlet, you know, because you have people that buy and live in one half and then use the rent of the other half to help make the payment, or I can split them up and sell them by halves as well, you know, which makes it very reasonable, you know, for the square foot and everything. But, and then you also have investors that buy it. That's not something right now that will work on a single family home. You're not gonna have an investor buy a single family home right now with the way it works. It just don't work. You know, because the way that the cost of the home is and the interest you pay and what rent you bring in, you're not gonna have any cash flow because you just won't. Because a single family home costs more to build for the same square foot.
So those single family homes up there are our new R1 with the 2.5 feet property line.
Yeah, that'd be similar to what you see in Trover.
So yeah, we shrunk those down to have single family homes, so that was kind of our design behind that.
And it is a lot more competitive that way. I mean, there's no doubt that does make a difference. And like I said, that's why if you get a percentage in mind that you want us to target, we can take a look. We can do a little bit more analysis and see how to proceed on it. And that's the purpose of tonight, again, is to gauge that feeling on it. Because, I mean, if the answer is it's got to be 60% single family and 40% two family or the townhomes, you know, that makes our math a lot harder for it to pencil out for them guys. And but we just need to know what the temperature is and what the feeling is, and we'll work with it. We want to be part of the community. These guys want to move into the community and get this going here. So
I was just up in the community up in Oregon where they had smaller lots. What we did in there, we put like cottages, right? And they were so damn, I mean, these neighborhoods that I got to visit down there, and people were just dying to get into those kind of things. The houses, the values went up, but they were bought inexpensively compared to, you know, a regular size home, a regular lot. But they were very sought after community that I saw.
And little cottages and like that.
Actually, rear entry garage, double garage in the back. But the front of it looked a little narrow, just, I mean, just, if you can picture the Disneyland cottage development, that's what it looked like, but it still had the rear access to the alleyway to
How many square foot were they?
But, I'm sorry?
How many square foot do you know?
I wouldn't know. I mean,
Well,
I
they
just think
sound
of
pretty small.
aesthetics, you know, and I think that's a big thing. I know one thing I did learn here, and I guess we've all kind of experienced it too, but we have a lot of people making a lot of noise about things. And it's typically 5 to 10% of the constituents. You know, those are the ones that get the loudest, and those are the ones we kind of paying attention to instead of looking at the bigger picture. You know, I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but you gotta keep all those things in mind. You know, some people that yell the loudest are really a small portion of what most people, you know, my wife and I are deciding, selling our property, and we're looking at maybe buying town. You know what I mean? Just, I think a lot of people, I relate to what you said.
You have a lot of choices.
People that have a family, raise families, they want us to downgrade. You know, I can see all that situation.
I'm not saying that it's not a viable part of our housing situation and that we don't need this kind of housing. What I'm saying is currently in our city limits, we already have a great deal of this kind of housing. And I think by shrinking the lot sizes for single family homes, we could open it up for another kind of buyer, like the 18 to 25 year olds or 34 year olds that she was talking about, who are maybe single and want to own a home, but they don't want to own a duplex. Or the single mom who wants to own a home and doesn't wanna have a wall that she's connected to. I mean, these are people who do live in our community, and these are people who can afford to buy a reasonably priced, single-family home that doesn't have to be on a half-acre lot and all of those things. It's in my perspective, it is part of the missing middle that we could have. Our community already has platted 200 or more than this, but 221 of them are still not built. And so,
I would assume that those 221 that you're talking about have not been built is due to infrastructure for the most part.
Yeah, I believe that
And,
too.
you know, you just can't, I'm sorry, but you can't, if the infrastructure is not there, you can't build. You can't even get a permit.
But the ones that are finished, they're what you said, high 80 occupancy rate already? I mean, so they're turning.
Well, again, make sure you clarify, they can be occupied.
but are
That
they
doesn't necessarily mean
fully?
they're rented.
I thought you meant that
No,
they're already occupied.
So 87% is like, it has a certificate of occupancy, which means they can be occupied, which means
But that
that
doesn't
they're
mean
pulling,
they are.
I guess as a perspective, what we've seen recently is there's been a big shift in terms of duplex building permits. They probably comprise about maybe 3 out of every 5 building permits, maybe 3 out of every 4 building permits are duplex permits. And so they're building them pretty fast, and their certificate of occupancies on them are really fast. In terms of being rented, I couldn't tell you because, you know, I don't deal with that portion of it. But I've never heard a developer say that they're having trouble renting a duplex. They've never said that to me ever.
Yeah,
Drive around.
it's not a problem, that I've been hearing about as far as people not being able to rent properties.
And,
Their occupancy, I don't know the number, but it's very high.
and if I wanna build a townhome right now, and I wanna go buy a townhome, wanna build one on,
How many are there for sale? No?
I can't find one, okay? If I wanna build a single-family home, I go find lots in every park. Bel Air, Southeast Wichita, where I am, there's 20 lots behind me. There's one house being built. I'm just, you know, what the market is, you know, that's what people are buying. Cause, you know, I can't just go out there and buy 10 townhome lots. They're not for sale, cause people that develop build them themselves, a lot of.
Change the market a little for some yourself. That whole schematic would change, you could change the market, but I don't think anybody in this room has the power to do that.
Well, I think what you're looking for, and I think kind of where we've been recently is the 60. We've done that several times. I'm not suggesting we wouldn't be swayed, but we've done that on three different developments as our starting point.
Okay, so we need to be more in that range in our discussion for you guys to be able to.
If that's feasible.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, that's
I'm not
the
speaking
kind of
for everyone,
numbers-
but I mean,
that's-
that's kind of where we've been, that's kind of been what we've talked about as a group.
Well, we'll take that number, we'll take a look at it, and that gives us some guidance on how to proceed on it. I'm not gonna say, we'll have to look, we'll get with Mike and we'll figure out, we'll also look at the layout of the site as far as logically, if we're gonna do it, we wanna make sure that we provide the right balance where, you know, I prefer when we're doing it as much as possible to have duplexes facing each other as much as possible. I don't want, the same thing, conversations you're having, I'd like to keep duplexes and single family kind of clustered together. So that may impact our exact number, but that's kind of what we're.
And that's right, yeah, I mean, it definitely has to be feasible, obviously, but again, so that we don't debate all night what that looks like. I mean, that's kind of where we've been. It's kind of a good starting point, I think, unless someone has a different 60-40 duplex.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it takes your time.
And again, we understand that's not a binding number right now.
Sure.
That's just, that's a number you're saying that based on experience, that's where we need to be thinking.
But I would be curious, because I just kind of did some rough math, how many how many doors you would lose if you went to all single family. That's just a personal, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be brought, just when you come back next, I would just be curious to break that down and tell me.
I'm not brave enough to do that number here on my head.
No, and I, like I said, I don't think the group, I would just be curious, because, you know, we did change those lot sizes thinking that that would help some of that. But, you know, my quick math says it's about 50 doors you would lose. Yeah, that's a lot.
Are those lot
That's
sizes
significant.
pretty much half of what the duplex lot sizes are?
The single family is half the size.
No,
It
not quite.
depends, on some of them they're half, some of them they're 2/3 the size, because the 65-foot lots, they'd be 2/3 the size. The 80, when you get closer to 80, it's closer to 85-90% of the size.
And I
So
just
it's-
used the round number of 70, or even, you know, just as an
Yeah.
average.
And-
Like I said, I would just be curious to see how they compare.
Yeah.
Do we get a updated refresher on what the market's demanding? And what it looks like? I mean,
I think you heard it tonight, Councilman. I mean, we had the person who I would say is one of the best to ask about that.
like for what's existing right now in Goddard, like when we're putting up these developments up, you know, how fast are they getting rented out? How fast are they being sold?
So we shared that with you guys in an email maybe 2 weeks ago, so pretty relatively updated. Councilwoman Hall picked up a hard copy today because she asked for me to print it out for her, but it has all that data on there, so. But yeah, so I'll get you a hard copy too. And anyone else would like one?
The comment that was made a few minutes ago was that somewhere between 3 out of 5 and 3 out of 4 building permits being pulled are duplexes. So 60 to 75% of the permits being pulled are for duplexes, because that's what the market is pushing
Thought and everything around it.
Mayor Lee, I think the chairman kind of shared this side of the room's consensus, unless you have arguments from your group. Mayor, I think we may want to try to hear what the council consensus is this evening. Because these guys are going to expend more time and money between now and when the application comes in. I think we kind of want to give them some idea of where we're at from the council side too. You're the short straw, so.
No. You know, we've spent some time talking about where we would think density is appropriate. And this comes off, you know, kind of on the outer south edge of things. In terms of impacting the market, I'm just curious to see what happens in Trails End with what we just platted. And I think the concerns we hear in the community, when Trails End came back to us a year ago and they asked to increase the percentage to 60%, my response to that is, well, we made the deal at 60-40, we should hold to that. And we got a lot of positive feedback from the community. I know if I hear 2 or 3 people say something to me that it was all thank you, that was a perception, maybe a little larger than the majority. You know, on the one hand, we don't want to, you know, cut off our nose to spite our face. Where over here we're saying we'll take this density, and then we come down here south and say, well, this isn't the right place. So I'm just not convinced one way or the other at this point that, the swings, I think we're all trying to do what's right and do the right thing. And I think the one thing that what you said, Vice Chair, is that the market and the way if we actually honestly look at what is being done, if the duplexes are what is going to grow Goddard, then we're in error by saying you know, putting too much restriction on this. But I think the community that we have to deal with, if that's the minority opinion, they might be wrong. And so if we're listening to that minority, making decisions that impact the growth and the things that we're trying to accomplish, maybe that's a misstep. I wish I could wave the magic wand and solve it all in one night, but it's 5 after 9 and it's past my bedtime. So I think we've got a lot to think about, and I don't want this to be an end of a discussion with y'all, but I think we need to, we just need to kind of continue to work and think about what kind of decisions we make. Because I see the benefit east where the growth is happening, and it's almost, I don't think, hypocritical to say, okay, we'll accept this growth here. If this is on the southern edge of the community, I'm going to say no to this, but I'm okay with the same thing over here. I'm just, that's the poll that's going on with my little pea brain. So.
Well, let me ask one question, just off the cuff here. Would you say converting that all to single family and that all to single family is an absolute must for the discussion?
I would say it was
That
maybe
whole
to the
section?
percentage that favors more single family that's feasible to have a discussion, right?
Okay.
So if it's, you take down to 65, 70, let's talk about it.
Okay.
You know, if it's, you know, if it's something that's not gonna be beneficial to you, then we're just having, you know, it's a new subject. I mean, so,
Yeah.
but if you can do that, bring it to say, hey, this will work out here. If there's room to wiggle, negotiate a little bit, that's the way I feel.
That's fair enough, yeah. I'm looking at, we'll try to work, to make things work.
The big thing is just, you know, I just agree that if the market's demanding and they're selling and people are occupying them, we gotta leave emotion out of it and go with common sense. You know, because it's not just, people don't like change, I know that. You know, and that's what most people I found, they just don't want to see change. It's inevitable. It's just my opinion, that's just my experience. But we gotta look at the growth of this community in a positive form. You know, we can't become stagnant. Sometimes old philosophies will make you stagnant. But then all of a sudden you're surrounded by Wichita, and they're gonna do the same thing that we're saying we're not gonna do. Let's just put it right there where we gotta look at it. We didn't have this decision yet.
Well, we appreciate your time today.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yours as well, thank you.
You know, I do appreciate everyone's time. We'll march forward here and give you guys an opportunity to kind of take a look at some other things and come back and we'll continue the dialogue. Any other comments to the good of the order? I'll make a motion that we adjourn. Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you guys, have a great night.
Thank you.